Next on the agenda is tackling the open chart functions. We're going to, from this main ED tracker, we're going to choose this patient right here. And again, you can open chart or double click here. You got the thinking wheel, the blue thinking wheel, the blue wheel of thinking. So here's this patient's chart open. This is patient Darian, test FV. And this is the menu you get on the right side with all these buttons once you open the chart. As we said before, it defaults, Meditech defaults to the summary screen, which is a very helpful, often used screen. Here you can edit problem, view past problems, edit allergies, view active medications, edit home medications, edit patient pharmacy, immunizations. Notice all these edit buttons. Health maintenance has some immunization information as well. Substance abuse, personal notes, and then we have an archive button here as well. Clicking the archive button opens up different visits for a particular patient. May have some scanned documents. You got document title here. You can view or print these. So that could be helpful. Since we started on the summary tab, we might as well continue with this tab, and we'll go to the legal and indicators button. So here we have information about resuscitation status, whether the patient has advanced directive, out of hospital DNR, medical power of attorney, and whether or not they're an organ or tissue donor. Here's another very important piece that is seen in several screens. It says selected visit or all visits. And right here it explains to you exactly what that means. Information shown below applies to the selected visit. If this is not the most recent visit, then more recent responses may exist. So the information you would get in any given screen or button used in Meditech when selected visit is used is going to all be one uniform visit. If you click all visits, typically if you have one column, let's say of vital signs or some type of lab, let's say a complete metabolic panel. If you click all visits, it says the information shown here below represents the most recent responses that exist in the medical record across all visits, which can mean that, let's say for CMP, 80% of the values that you see might be from today's visit, and then let's say a CBC may not have been done today, it was done a week ago. You'll see last week's CBC here because it's the most current. So it's going to look at all visits and try to give you a value for every column that exists, the most recent one that it can possibly give you. Moving on to demographics. Demographics is exactly what demographics means. Patient information. Demographic information. We've seen this screen before already. If you're watching these videos in order, I think we've hit this tab already before. Referrals. And notice you've got a couple of choices. Selected visits, patient record. This test patient doesn't have any information under either of those. And then care team. So obviously one patient may have several different doctors for several different reasons: GI, cancer, PCPs, ER doctors, current providers. And then you also have the choice down here to see the history. It will show you any changes, former doctors, and that kind of information there. So we'll go back. That's it for the summary button. So to get back to that initial screen we popped up on, that would be clinical, and that gets us back to here where we are, where lots of documentation is done. While we're on the topic, sometimes I refer to these as buttons. It's kind of a simple way to talk about them. These up here particularly are really called panels. Notice this says clinical panels. Because when you click on a button or panel, it gives you several different choices Some people prefer to use the term panel because it's got so many more choices than just like a button. Seems too simplistic a term. So while we're here, I'm going to show you a visual, a picture, pull this picture on screen of just a description of what you're seeing here. We covered this before, but we'll review again. Everything in this red box, for our screen, it's going to be summary down to refresh ER, is what is called the EMR, the Enterprise Medical Record. This is view only. Some very few exceptions. If you navigate to certain specific pieces, you can get an edit button, just like the summary tab. But by and large, this is generally considered the viewing portion. The EMR, and notice the bottom says refresh EMR, so it refers to itself, this EMR portion. And then below that, once that refresh EMR stops, this is all editable information. Orders, ambulatory orders, work list, MAR, writing a note, TAR, discharging calls. Those are all things that you can edit. Now it is a little bit tricky because this technically ED visit data and ED summary report are not something you can really edit. They're also a view only thing. But for the most part, you view this as viewing information, this as editing information. So now we're back on the clinical portion of the summary screen. Tracker, the first panel up here, is just going to take you back to the main ED tracker screen. And then we'll cover this select visits. Just like this archive button down here gives you some visit information. Once we go to select visits, it's a similar type of deal. In fact, the archive button is here as well. So select visits is what it sounds like. If you want to view several visits for a particular patient and go back and see, perhaps, you can find what their labs look like or what their EKGs show. You just want to see a specific visit, what happened last time. This is one way you can do that. So archive is going to give you similar information, all these different visits. Notice there's a couple of different things that are here that weren't in the other spot. So you got your time period and your visit type. That's a nice search function. And then you're able to search for different visits. Diagnosis, there's nothing recorded for this visit. And so that's select visits.